The Raiders have done it again. Just when fans think they've seen every possible way this team could lose, the Raiders dig deeper and find a new one. Uglier, more humiliating, and somehow more painful than before. Every week feels like déjà vu with a twist of disappointment. This team doesn't just lose. They invent new methods of collapse. Week 5 against the Colts was the kind of performance that defines dysfunction. A 640 loss doesn't happen by accident. It's not just bad football. It's an unraveling of everything that's supposed to make a franchise competitive. For those who've stuck with this team through thick and thin, it's getting hard to keep defending them. There's a difference between rebuilding and regressing, and right now the Raiders are sprinting backward. You can't blame it on one bad call or one unlucky bounce. The truth is much uglier. The Raiders' leadership, from the coaching staff to the quarterback, has lost control. Pete Carroll, once known for his energy and adaptability, now feels like a man out of touch with his own locker room. His decisions have been baffling. His response is robotic. The spark that made him one of football's most dynamic motivators has fizzled into confusion. And then there's Geno Smith, once viewed as a redemption story, a quarterback who clawed his way back from the ashes. Geno has turned into a weekly liability. 9 interceptions in 5 games. That's not a slump. That's a meltdown. Every throw seems to carry a sense of panic. Every read a hesitation too late. You can almost see the doubt in his eyes before the snap. The numbers tell one story, but the film tells a darker one. A quarterback who's lost trust in his line, his receivers, and himself. When a veteran loses that internal compass, it's not easy to get it back. Geno's decisions have gone from questionable to disastrous, and his inability to adapt mid-game is suffocating this team's potential. But the problem doesn't stop under center. Offensive coordinator Chip Kelly, once a genius of innovation, looks like a man still clinging to a college playbook that doesn't translate. His schemes are predictable, his calls overly complicated, and his red zone strategy practically non-existent. 10-play drives ending in field goals have become the Raiders' calling card. They can move the ball between the 20s, sure, but once the field gets tight, it all falls apart. Abandoning the run when it's working, refusing to use the strengths of his players, it's like watching someone intentionally sabotage their own offense. And for a coordinator with one of the highest salaries in the league, it's embarrassing. Pete Carroll bears as much blame as anyone. He believed in Geno when few others did. He put his name, his reputation, and his season on that bet. But now, that bet is burning down his house. Extending Geno before seeing how he'd handle a new system, new expectations, and a tougher division was a gamble that's backfired spectacularly. The Raiders have gone from a team of potential to a cautionary tale. They aren't just losing games, they're losing belief. Geno Smith's current trajectory projects to 31 interceptions. That's Jameis Winston territory. And as much as fans hate to admit it, there's only one logical move left: bench him. Hand the reins to Kenny Pickett and see if he can at least bring a pulse back to this team. Pickett isn't a savior, but at this point he doesn't have to be. He just has to be competent. He just has to make this team believe again. Sometimes a fresh voice in the huddle can change everything. Not because he's better, but because he's different. And there's another layer to all this. The sense that this regime cares more about protecting its inner circle than winning football games. The whispers around the organization are getting louder. Some are questioning whether loyalty is being mistaken for leadership. If benching Geno would mean finally holding someone accountable, then it's long overdue. Because right now, competition in this franchise feels like a slogan, not a standard. The Raiders need to send a message to the players, to the fans, and to themselves that no job is guaranteed. Not for quarterbacks, not for coaches, not for anyone. Benching Geno wouldn't just be a tactical move. It would be symbolic. It would tell Raider Nation that this team still values fight, accountability, and performance over politics. But as much as a quarterback change could shake things up, it won't fix everything. Because the truth is, this team's problems go far deeper than one position. The defense is uninspired, the special teams are undisciplined, and the coaching staff seems allergic to adjustments. Against the Colts, the Raiders looked lost in every phase of the game. A blocked punt, a missed field goal, coverage breakdowns that left receivers running free. Even Max Crosby, usually the heart of this team, looked defeated, giving a quiet no comment when asked about the loss. That silence said everything. Crosby is supposed to be the emotional core, the anchor that keeps the locker room from collapsing. But one man can only carry so much. Leadership isn't just about effort on Sundays. It's about setting a tone. If Crosby doesn't demand accountability, who will? When your stars stop believing, your team stops existing. And then there's the elephant in the room, Pete Carroll's identity crisis. Once players coach Pete, he's now Grandpa Pete, stubborn and resistant to change. The Raiders' schemes are outdated, their rotations misguided. Players are being misused, roles are unclear, and the game plans are confusing. It's like the staff doesn't even know who their own players are. You can't win in the NFL when your coaching philosophy is built on denial. What makes all this so painful is how preventable it feels. The offseason was supposed to be a reset, a time to patch holes, reinforce depth, and build an identity. Instead, it looks like a wasted opportunity. Every roster hole that was ignored back then is now being exposed on Sundays. Every hesitation to adapt has become a weekly headline. The Raiders are 1-4, but it feels worse. Because it's not just the losses, and it's the lifelessness. You watch this team and see no spark, no urgency, no hunger. It's a group that's either tuned out its coaches or stopped believing in the system entirely. And that's when a season is truly over. Not when the math says you're eliminated, but when your players start playing like it doesn't matter. So yes, the season is over. Not officially, but emotionally. Still, fans will keep watching, not because they expect a miracle, but because they want to see who still cares. Who fights through the pain, who quits, and who's still worth building around. Those final games won't be about playoffs. They'll be about pride. The Raiders have hit rock bottom before, but this one feels different. It's not just about bad football. It's about identity, accountability, and whether this organization still knows how to win. The only thing worse than losing is pretending everything's fine when it's clearly not. So here we are, watching a once proud franchise crumble under its own ego and indecision. Maybe Kenny Pickett sparks something. Maybe he doesn't, but something needs to change and fast. Because Raider Nation deserves more than empty promises and recycled excuses. They deserve a team that fights back. And that brings us to you, the fans. Do you think benching Geno Smith is the right move? Should Pete Carroll be held accountable for this collapse? And do you believe Kenny Pickett can actually turn things around? Let's hear your thoughts down below, because this conversation isn't over. If you're still rocking with Raider Nation through the chaos, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next breakdown. The fire's not going out, it's just getting started.